October of 2016, DYN DNS, one of the largest DNS providers in the world, experienced outages as a result of the largest DDoS attack in US history, or in world history, actually. This attack was orchestrated by ordinary devices that were compromised. These are printers, IP cameras, and is the vanguard for a new wave of attacks powered by Internet of Things devices. So if we think about a modern city, these types of low power, low cost devices are all over. So there can be smart power monitoring, lighting controls, IP video surveillance, and even shipping containers that report their location wirelessly to shippers. However, there's a major problem in this scene, and that's that many IoT devices are insecure. Now, if we think about a typical IoT device, there are three categories that we can evaluate it upon. The fact that it's low power, low cost, and its security protocols. Now, advances in these first two categories has really led to a proliferation of these devices and will continue to lead to the growth of their usage all over. But the focus on these two categories has left the third category neglected. And often, these devices are not secure and do not comply with modern security standards. Now, we'd like to fix this. And our project is aimed at making IoT devices both low power, low cost, and secure. So our project is a open source hardware and software design that uses modern crypto systems and has strong guarantees of security. This is all built on a custom processor design with a 256-bit data path that's 4 times as large as what's in your laptop. Additionally, this is built upon an FPGA that uses about as much power as a solar calculator. Now, in order to achieve these 3 goals, we use a number of resources. The first is a Lattice IceStorm ICE40 8000 LUT FPGA. This is a very low power FPGA and is very challenging to build such a complex system upon. Additionally, we're using a fully open source stack and have built a number of our own tools that will also be open source. Finally, we're using a lot of strong crypto algorithms such as RSA and elliptic curve. To talk a little bit more about the hardware, I'd like to introduce Asif Versi.
So as Derek mentioned, we're using the Lattice ICE40 FPGA. This is our breakout board that we use, and this in the middle is the actual FPGA that we're using. Although this looks pretty large, it's only about 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter of silicon. So the actual device can be much smaller. This FPGA is comprised of 8,000 LUTs. These LUTs are individually reconfigurable gates. This is different from your CPU, which has these gates baked into the silicon. So here we can create any form of digital logic that we want out of these 8,000. To fit our low cost requirements, use this Project IceStorm. And so this was a collection of open source tools, which we then added our own tools to. We started out by generating our own hardware designs, which was our 256-bit CPU. We then created our own assembly language and compiler for this language. After we had our compiler and our CPU design, we could test both of these using a Verilog simulation and Python simulation. These 2 simulations were verified against each other to ensure security because we wanted to prove that our device is correct. Once we knew our device was correct, we were able to program our FPGA. Now I'd like to pass it off to Satya, who's going to talk about security.
So to satisfy the security requirement, we implemented 2 different public key cryptology algorithms. For those of you unfamiliar, let's go over what public key crypto is. So in public key crypto, every user has a public and private key. The public key is shared with the world, and the private key is kept secret to yourself. You don't let anyone see that. So when Bob wants to say, hello Alice, what he's going to do is he's going to encrypt that using Alice's public key. This is going to spit out a ciphertext, which is clearly illegible to anyone that can see it. So you can send this over any public channel with the knowledge that it won't be deciphered into its original message. Once Alice gets this, she's going to decrypt it using this private key that only she has. That's key. And then it comes out, the original message comes out, hello Alice. So there are many different algorithms that do this encryption and decryption. The first of which we evaluated was RSA. RSA is one of the oldest and most commonly used public key crypto algorithms. Its security has been tested throughout the years in the field, and we know that we can trust it. The math behind it is also relatively simple, but computationally expensive, which provides a need for our product. Finally, the current security standard requires RSA keys of at least 2048 bits long. For reference, our FPGA has 8,000 LUTs, so this would take up a quarter of the space just to hold the key. This was an issue. So then we switched to elliptic curve. Elliptic curve is a much more modern crypto system, but it requires using math behind elliptic curves. You can see behind me, there's a picture of a curve along with a few points. These points are actually related through math that is much more complicated than the math behind RSA. However, this complexity allows us to have much smaller key sizes. So an elliptic curve key length of 256 bits provides the same security guarantees as an RSA key of 3072 bits, which is more than even the standard. So this was like a brief overview of the security. Now I'm going to introduce Neil to give you a quick demo of our product.
Thanks, Satya. So let's start off by going over a brief overview of how Epic should work in action. So let's just say that we have a smart door lock, which is becoming very popular in recent years. If you have an insecure communication without any sort of encryption and decryption modules, the communication channel is now insecure. However, once you add our Epic modules in, you can essentially use this on the existing communication channel, where you can request a signature for a message you're going to send from the control switch, and on the existing communication channel, send this message. The Epic module on the other side will be able to receive this message, decrypt it, and verify the message that the sender is the correct person. This makes the entire communication channel very secure. Now let's actually go through and see how Epic works in action. So let's start off where you can see that the two LEDs on both the control switch and the door lock are red, which means that our encryption is turned off. So you can unlock and lock the door. This is on our private Wi-Fi network we already set up. So now if you press the buttons on both, we're going to activate the fire modules. So now we can also still lock and unlock the door. Now if you turn off the encryption on the control switch to simulate a hacker, you can see that we can no longer control the switch, which means that a malicious user can no longer take control of your house door.
So we just showed you how Epic makes IoT devices secure. And we're really excited about this, because this means that in this city, we no longer have to worry about the large-scale DDoS attacks that compromise many of these devices. So if you'd like to see how this works further or see an attack in action, we welcome you to come by our demo booth later, and we can go into much more detail on this. Thank you.